only 10% are actually sending leads. And he was like, you'll never build your network faster than sat at an investment desk. They do the most incredible lamb shoulder. Spend the money. You just won't move at the pace that is needed with a VC-backed business. There's a really good poker teacher who shows you how to play, get enough sleep, eat healthy, do some exercise.
Hey London Business Babe. This community is built for us and by us to ungatekeep your next move and life in the city. If you never want to miss out, subscribe to the Substack where episodes will land straight in your inbox. Now grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and let's get into today's interview. Welcome to Coffee and Oysters, the London Business Babe podcast, where we get you together with business tips that actually work and let you know where it's worth tapping your oyster around the city. My name is Frances Adair Matthews. I am a certified Notion consultant and founder of the Notion Bar, where I get my clients together with personalized productivity systems built in Notion. Super excited for today's guest. This one's for the tech girlies. And today's guest is Sofia Hamilton. Sofia went from marketing to finance and an investor at BlackRock all the way to founder and jack of all trades. Sofia seeks to explore the full range of business personas with her current role as CEO and co-founder of Souk, a go-to-market partnership one-stop shop, the latest iteration in her career. Hello and welcome to the shift.
Thanks so much for having me, Frances. This is delightful. I've been very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. How's your week going? Have you done anything fun? I know you're super busy with work, but is there anything interesting going on in your world at the moment?
Yeah. Oh my God. I think there's never a dull week. It is permanently accelerating and very chaotic. We are in the process of closing out some fundraising, which is very exciting. We also have been accumulating some new, very, very interesting corporate clients that are just in both new industries for us and also some repeating industries, which is obviously amazing because it helps train a lot of the tech knowledge, the brain behind Souk. So seeing some of those repeating industries is really valuable. And also hiring for a new commercial person. So there's always a huge amount of things going on. And obviously being COO, I wear so many different hats. There's a million admin things going on, a million customer success things going on, product development. There's always a lot going on every single week.
Right. Yeah. And for people who don't know, what is Souk? What is the problem that you're solving?
Absolutely. So Souk is an AI partner development manager. I believe it's also the first one in the world that is, AI enabled. It essentially helps businesses source the best quality partners for their specific company. It helps track and attribute what leads are being sent from who. It helps with the activation and reactivation because a lot of businesses will have quite large partnership ecosystems, but actually we found only about 10% are actually sending leads, and it's quite time consuming historically to actually collect this entire ecosystem base. So you really want to be making more out of the partners you have. So full funnel, we help you source more better fit partners. We help you reactivate the ones that you have. We help you track and attribute their performance and then also the payouts.
Okay, so quite literally a one-stop shop.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So you had quite a prestigious corporate career. What made you want to leave BlackRock and be like, I'm going to be a startup founder? Let's make life easy for myself.
Yeah, I guess it's worth understanding the backdrop with which I actually entered BlackRock in the first place. I have always wanted to be a founder and build my own companies, so it wasn't like I was giving anything up. This was always the plan. If anything, it so happened that I completely fell in love with the job of a research analyst and found it so intellectually stimulating and exciting that I probably ended up staying in it for a little bit longer than I initially anticipated. But the reason I actually ended up in BlackRock in the first place was because I went out for drinks with my older brother describing this business idea that I had. And I was like, I want to build this out. I think it's got potential. It was a completely separate idea that was not tech related. It was more to do with sort of putting the right people in the same room, and also maybe leveraging additional contacts and synergies between non-competing industries, maybe bringing in a member of the family so that they could see the complexities of your day-to-day job. So maybe they would have a little bit more understanding of what you're doing. And as I was explaining this idea to him, I was like, the one problem is I'm 20, 21, and I don't have enough like senior management contacts and those would be my customers. Those would be the people I would want in the room. And he was like, oh, well, you should go work in finance. Like that's all because he works in finance as well. He's like, that's all I speak to every day is just calls with CEOs and CFOs trying to understand their business models. And he was like, you'll never build your network faster than sat at an investment desk. And so I pivoted quite hard from a lot of creative or more creative type jobs that I'd been doing previously. So as you mentioned, during university, I did digital marketing. I also did sales and editorial at a startup in Berlin. I worked at a small graphic design company. I worked at a luxury events management company because I really wanted to become a film producer. And I thought, what avenues can I take? So I'd explored a lot of different areas of industry. And ultimately, I've got to say my parents were right because they kept telling me, you enjoy more analytical things. And I was like, no, I will enter the creative field. And no, they were right. I really like the heavy analytic sort of areas and areas that essentially touch a lot of business and a lot of people, which maybe is a good segue into why I ended up in a business like Souk, which focuses on partnerships, which ultimately it's all about people. It's about how do you put the right two people next to each other where 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 10 in terms of like value. So what we aim to do is sort of remove a lot of the administrative burden from that role, from the partnership manager role, take away a lot of the sort of grunt work where you're having to do maybe like, how to best frame it, the tracking across lots of Excel spreadsheets of like, oh, well, who was the right contact, or looking through a CRM where you're not necessarily sure who's in the best position today to be the right partner for a new business avenue, a new product that you have, or all these things where it's like actually the technology that is available today with AI, where you can make inferences, where you can make essentially better decisions whilst wasting less time, is like, it's the perfect time to launch a business like this. So yeah, it was always going to be the case that I was going to leave BlackRock. I'm incredibly grateful that I managed to have that experience. I worked like crazy to get in. And yeah, I'm very grateful for the path that my career has taken.
Amazing. And you have co-founders, correct? Tell us about
Yes.
the journey of how you found your co-founders, whose idea, because it sounds like you kind of had an idea similar to Souk, but Souk is obviously, it's different, and
Yeah.
it's iterations now. So how did the idea of Souk come about, but also with co-founders?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I didn't know about the world of partnerships as it stands today, as I know it to be today at all, until I met my co-founders. So I have two co-founders, Leo, who's CEO, who worked in partnerships previously at companies like Deal and Papaya, and Io, who is our CTO, who built infrastructure at GitHub. Now, it was when I met Leo, or I started hearing him pitch we actually all met doing the Antler accelerator program, that what he was describing just kept resonating with me in terms of, oh, I've seen this motion work before. I'd actually I'd seen it very, very close firsthand, watching my dad essentially be the middleman and leverage his like Rolodex in terms of how do I put the right people into the right room. So I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense to me. But when Leo was presenting it to me, he was talking about it at the corporate level. And ultimately, what really attracted me was that it is a very people-driven business. It's got a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of things that can be automated and things that can be like knowledge bases that can be trained for AI models, which is, the technology that we're all leveraging today. And also it can serve pretty much any industry, which really appeals to the investor in me. Like I love diversified risk profile. So yeah, that's essentially it was Leo who presented to me the space, and it just ticked all my boxes. And I'd already been collaborating with Io on a couple projects prior to speaking to Leo during the accelerator program, and I was like, Io, you should come in. You should look at this because I think it's is definitely worth our time. So that's essentially how it came to be.
That. And is it still the three of you now, or do you have a wider team?
Yes. So we've got 3 employees. It's two developers and a lead designer, which is a phenomenal like engine for our entire business, and it allows us to iterate really quickly, which is incredibly important because we're learning so much from watching how our users behave, from speaking to them, that we need to be able to be flexible and iterate quite quickly. And now we're in the process of hiring a few commercial people so that we can accelerate in more directions commercially too.
Yeah. And where do you find those first hires, I suppose, as a new startup? Like what kind of networks are you tapping into?
It's a really good question. I mean, the honest truth of it is it's a learning process. We've reached out to people directly on LinkedIn that we'd never spoken to before, but they had really strong profiles. We've used recruiting agencies as well. Obviously that's a double-edged sword because the recruiting fees can be quite hefty, but if it saves time, if it gets you in front of the right people, it can be worthwhile. We've also used platform services that help you locate lots of the right sort of people. But ultimately, it's a fine balancing act, right? Because the earlier the startup is, the less money you have in the bank. And so you need to be able to make decisions about when to spend the money and how much of it to spend and what that does to your overall runway. So as the business has gone through having different amounts of capital and resource, we've had to make very different decisions about like how senior do we go in terms of developer talent, for example. And I think, yeah, it's a balancing act. I don't think there's any one necessarily right answer. I think you're always going to get pros and cons by like spending more or less, but definitely the one conclusion I've come to is spend the money. Don't wait around to hire people. Just like start hiring as soon as possible because you really want to be able to put something in front of people to start that learning journey. And so the only wrong answer is to try and hold back and not hire, because you just won't move at the pace that is needed to meet the goals of a VC-backed business.
Yeah, and it must be interesting for you now being on the other side of the investment world. So before you were on the investor side and now you're on the startup side. What lesson do you feel like that gives you a little bit of an advantage when you kind of know what the investors are looking for because you lived that life yourself in a
Yeah,
way?
it's a very interesting area actually, because I was a sort of I invested in the listed market, right? So companies that have already existed for like over 20 years, some of them over 100 years. These are companies that have very set structures. They're enormous global conglomerates. So I guess the major difference would be how people perceive the business. Like there's a lot at an early stage where as an investor, actually you care a lot less about the financials, you care a lot more about the team, and you really want to buy into the individuals who are forming that business, because ultimately the bet is on them and whether they're going to be able to accelerate the business. Whereas when you're looking at the markets, it's more about, okay, let me figure out what management is saying between the lines, do a little bit of forensic accounting, trying to backtrack decisions that management is making by looking at the financials, which are quite detailed. So it's a very different type of investor that goes into VC, especially early stage, versus like I was active equities investor. But I will say it definitely comes in handy because like I understand a risk reward profile very well. I know how to diversify our risks internally in the business. It's a lot easier to calculate ROI when that's like built into your DNA. And so when investors ask us about like decisions that we're making for the business in the context of like what's the payoff going to be, that's been thought through. So that's definitely a benefit, but I think that's something that every good founder needs to have thought through. So yeah, I'd say there's definite benefits in terms of the fact that it's very easy and I'm very comfortable with the financials. But it takes two very different kinds of investors. One cares about the exact like trajectory and history of where this business has been because it's already proven, right? Whereas the early stage investor, it's far more of an art than a science.
Fair play. And so you are quite comfortable with on the financial side of things, but has there been anything along the way where you've really kind of just had to like hit the ground running and just like upskill and learn on the job, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. Product design. That's one of the major reasons why we brought in a designer really early on, was because the three co-founders could not decide on a color scheme or a logo or like a basic layout. And it was very important that we actually brought someone in to sort of do that with knowledge and do it with intention and understand like what is the happy path for a user. Because we were just wasting too much time trying to like learn it ourselves. Now we have been upskilling ourselves since the hire and making sure that we like understand the basic building blocks, but I'm so happy that we made that hire. And then now also we're heavy into the process of figuring out how do we develop our PLG motion, our product-led motion. It's a very interesting phase because you do a lot of learning when you're super close to customers. You're like there at the coal face. You're like, I'm sat on a Google Meet watching them use the platform and figuring out what issues they have. Product led obviously means that you have like that 1 degree of separation and you want it to all be as intuitive as possible. I think that's an area where we're like now massively trying to upskill in terms of, okay, well, what infrastructure do we need to build in to make this as easy as possible, to make the iterations as easy as possible when we figure out that there's a bottleneck? How does that feed in to QA and to the developers and then back into design? So yeah, that's a big area of learning for us.
When you say you've been upskilling, like how do you upskill? Do you take courses or is it more just self-learning through books and YouTube, etc.?
I would say the number one way I personally do it is I speak to experts. I book time in with people who have spent their careers working on this, and I ask them about what they would do. And I try and paint a picture of what the situation is as concisely as possible, so that they have a grounding of like what advice I'm asking for. And then I ask multiple people the same things just to get a sense of, okay, well, there's obviously biases across individuals. How would one person do it? How would another person do it? Ultimately, we have to, as founders, we have to make the judgment call as to like what gut instinct we have about our industry. But speaking to experts is my favorite way of learning about it. because also they will give us some really useful resources. They'll send across like these are like frameworks that you could look at. It's yeah, I would say that that is the best way to do it, and that's another reason why it's great to have a founding investor like Antler, because they give us access to these expert networks that they essentially sponsor for us. So there's
Nice.
a lot of people we can reach out to without having to pay a dime. And
Hmm.
that's incredibly empowering because it makes a huge difference to how quickly we can deploy the best practices.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely super useful to have as a early stage business. And how long has the business been around actually?
Um, about 9 months, which is
Okay.
still very young, but I mean we are trying to build a unicorn here, so every day, every hour counts. And I'm really happy with the progress we've made so far.
What have been some memorable moments in the past 9 months that you're proud of?
Um, I mean, I'm proud of everything, every single moment of it. It's funny. I've said to my parents, I feel like I'm going through like a second adult puberty, um, because it can be such highs and such lows. But I love all of it. I love the full roller coaster of the experiences. I'm not great at celebrating successes. I've never been. I realized this after I got my CFA qualification, which is notoriously like hard to achieve because it's three separate exams. You have to study a lot for them. Pass rates are really low. And when I finally got it, all I felt was relief. And then I was like, yeah, obviously that was like inevitable. Move on to the next challenge. I think I felt similarly with getting our first customer and then our first 10 customers and then getting funding from like angels and VCs. And it's all stuff that is really worth being proud of. I'm still learning to make sure that I'm both proud of it, but also like celebrate it. So yeah, not a specific moment, but a lot of small moments in the build up of the business.
Okay. Okay. And how do you find your customers?
Well, we have found the latest round of customers have all come from either referrals or partnerships. So our customers are talking about us with other players in their markets. Um, they will, because it's all quite small circles. What you realize is all of these players, everyone knows each other. So if you can make a good impression with one, it really word of mouth is incredible. We also have partners. My co-founder Leo made a post about it on LinkedIn recently. We found a guy called Andy Ranson through our platform, and he's been phenomenal at spreading the word about Souk and getting more customers involved with our platform. So we're really walking the walk of, our business is all about finding partners that help refer leads back into yours. And that's how we are finding additional customers too.
That's great. And what type of customers are you going after, essentially?
So we tend to focus on, I mean, industry-wise, we originally started focusing on specifically HR tech and cybersecurity because that's where we had networks and contacts that were willing to, take a bet on us. That's expanded into like manufacturing. It's also expanded into different verticals of fintech. And I guess for us, the main priority is that they understand what like the value of a product-led motion so that we don't have to do too much education at the get-go. Um, and if they do, and if they have a resource internally they're willing to put towards it, ideally they have 1 to 3 partner managers, then that makes for an ideal company that's like ready to go. They want to grow their partner channel. They understand the value. And we provide them with all the infrastructure necessary to really accelerate that and make it so much easier.
Very cool. And as you dive deeper into this world of partnerships, are there any like unexpected or just interesting trends that you're finding?
Unexpected?
Or just like, oh, I didn't realize this would come up, but like this is kind of what everyone cares about at the moment.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily say that there's like a particular trend that I've seen uh because we're operating with so many different industries. I wouldn't necessarily I don't have one top of mind. What I can tell you is that it's like the pink elephant. Now that my entire world revolves around partnerships, when I'm out in the world exploring, I just see them so much more. And so, for example, I was in Edinburgh over the weekend visiting my family and primarily my dog. And I happened to go to Lost Cove Surf Camp, or I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
It's a phenomenal startup, scale up, which has been 10 years in the making. They've built this completely man-made wave pool, like 20 minutes out of the city by the airport. It's spectacular. It looks incredible. And one of the things that the founders have done in order to make sure that they could hit the ground running and have customers coming into the infrastructure from day one is that they partnered with universities and they partnered with schools, which was very clever because they've created modules. There's a lot of physics involved with waves and surfing. And so they like sponsored a PhD student at one of the universities who've now like created an entire module, and they're attracting more students because of it. They are also getting lots of I think like P9 students because they're doing modules on that in physics, but they can also have a PE element of it where they actually get to go do a surf lesson during the week. And then they actually end up coming back because they've enjoyed it so much. So they're gaining customers in that way. And I just think it's really interesting to now notice how different businesses leverage all of these partnerships in a much more obsessive way. Where it's like really cool to see, well, if this is what this company and this person has done for this industry, what could other industries deploy to benefit themselves? And actually, in that particular scenario, it's like an incredible win-win because it's not only winning the business more clients, it's also doing like social good. It's like all of these different things. So, I think that's what I would say that I've noticed as a trend is just my ability to spot partnerships all over the place.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And what's next for Souk? Like what is the next big mission for you guys? I know you're fundraising, but what is the next mission that you are focusing on in terms of developing the product, especially in the world of AI? Because that's just changing so quickly.
Yeah, so we have a couple things in the back burner that we are internally discussing about product design, which are very interesting. I'm still going to keep them private because we're still iterating through what we ultimately think will be the next version of the product. But as I mentioned before, the product-led growth, that is the main focus. How do you convert a product that has, done the traditional sort of sales cycle and bringing people on and doing the human-led onboarding and convert that into something that like just is so intuitive that anyone could just land on the website and use it straight away within like a minute of landing on the website. That's our main focus.
Very exciting. And before we go into the more lifestyle aspects of this podcast, if you had one top tip to any early stage founder, like what would it be? Just like raw advice, stuff that you wouldn't hear like elsewhere.
It's really funny. I've done a couple podcasts and everyone loves this question. So I'll try and give a different piece of advice than I've given before. I think it sounds really not like you've asked me to tell you something that people don't get elsewhere. But I'm going to tell you something that even like, everyone's told you already. The basics matter so much. Get enough sleep, eat healthy, do some exercise. Like, the one thing that is consistent across every founder I know, and I know a lot of founders at this point, is your cortisol levels are just going to be through the roof for about 5 years. And you need to find ways of managing that. And it's very easy. I think the sort of founder mentality lends itself really well to quite obsessive people. I know that because I am one. And so it's really hard to let go when you're in the middle of like the workday or the middle of the workday becomes 11 p.m. and you're just like, I need to figure this out. I need to like unlock this particular thing. I think it's important to remember that, you know, you are borrowing energy from your future self. You need a certain amount of sleep, even if it is like, say your normal amount of sleep is 8 hours, you can cut that down to 6, but don't drop below a certain threshold. Also, food wise, you need to make sure you're eating. You need to make sure you're doing some amount of physical exercise, because all of these things, I know they sound really dumb and really basic, but if you lose track of them for too long as a founder, it can impact areas of the business. Because if you've not been sleeping enough, if you've not eaten healthy, if you've not done some exercise, you can get really wound up, or you can get too tired in order to like present the best energy for your employees, present the best energy for your customers, your investors. Like it really is quite a holistic thing, whereby if you want to be present, be right, like you need to take care of yourself. Like a little bit of that, you know, when you're on a plane and they're like, put the mask on yourself before you put it on your child. It's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And I do think founders need that reminder, because that's not their default. Their default's just to keep going. And then suddenly they wake up one day and they're like, oh, I'm burnt. So that would be my reminder, more than advice. I think everyone knows this, but it's a good reminder.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I can relate. Over the past year, I've had to schedule activities in for myself
Yeah.
like a kid. Like I've had to put myself into clubs. Like I have bar class on a Monday.
Nice.
I have netball on a Wednesday. I have swimming on a Friday. Because
Very
those are
nice.
things,
I rate that.
and because they're in my calendar and I pay for them, I have to it's like a work
Yeah.
meeting. Like I have to go, and
Yeah.
I'm so much happier with that. It just energy levels and stuff, and it makes a difference. It really does. But
Nice.
yeah, do you do anything like that for yourself?
So I don't hard commit to like scheduled things, because
Mhm.
my work just would not allow it. I just keep track of everything. So I record things either on a calendar. I built myself my own little um goals app on Lovable over like a weekend. Just a nice little side project, because I love seeing data displayed beautifully. And I was like, oh, it's a good incentive for me to like keep track of my goals. And I gave it quite broad, holistic goals. If I'm like seeing my progress on a day-to-day basis. So I don't, I should eventually. My partner keeps telling me to like hire a PT, because that might make me show up to the gym with like more of a consistent strategy.
Mhm.
Because I tend to be a little bit unstructured when I go to the gym. So that's probably the next thing that I might try and like actually book into the calendar. Um, I know another founder who's been doing some dance classes. I would love to go do those.
Mm.
Like do some salsa lessons. That would be phenomenal. But at the moment, I don't think it's practical for me to sign up to something where like it's so rigid that I have to show up. I'm trying to be flexible enough with myself to know that like that's not achievable, but if I can sneak in like a half-hour session at, you know, after work or before work or at lunchtime, even if that's at a like really awkward hour. That's why 24-hour gyms exist. So yeah, it's not the most fun response, but that's what I'm doing.
Fair enough. Hope you're enjoying the show. Would love to hear what you're thinking. Drop a comment and share your thoughts. Even better, if you're loving the show, take 2 seconds to rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. It really helps other people find us. And if you want to be a guest, details in the show notes on how to sign up. Now, let's jump back in. And so now let's hop more into the lifestyle aspect and how you function as a human outside of work. I always like to start this
I swear I'm a human, but I'm terrified that I'm just gonna give like a bunch of boring responses because my entire life is business.
This podcast captures people as they are. But I like to start this section off with music. Do you have an ultimate hype song that just kind of gets you pumped and ready for the day or the meeting or whatever it is?
I do. I have 2 songs that I often refer back to. There's one called Pancake, and I think it's by Bomba Stereo. I'm so bad at recalling names.
Oh.
But it's really good. I'm not gonna emulate it because I'm a terrible singer, but it's just got a really like good pace, and it's ridiculous, and it's like helps me get like excited and my blood pumping at the right beats per minute. And then also Vienna, which is very famous, so I should know the artist. Billy Joel. I'm pretty sure it's Billy Joel. Which is it's not my hype song, but it is a song that I refer to quite often, because it's like a good reframing of like the first lyric is, I think it's the first lyric. It goes, "Slow down, you're doing fine." And I think that for a personality like mine, it's really good to sometimes when I'm like getting really hyped up and too accelerated to have something that brings me back to like level and says, actually, we are progressing really quickly. We are doing a lot. Just keep going. Like progress is better if you just keep moving forward as opposed to try and do too many things at once. So those are my 2 songs.
Amazing. And do you have any personal policies or non-negotiables that keep you grounded? So, for example, me, I always say, as much as possible, unless it's like a time zone thing, I avoid calls before 10 a.m.
Yeah, fair. My non-negotiable is, it can be flexible to either be a Saturday or a Sunday, but I do dedicated one-to-one time with my partner. It's very easy to just not see each other a lot. And so we both prioritize each other and make sure that every weekend we have like a blocked out allocated time where it's like it's just us. Neither of us is on our phones, neither of us is on the laptop. He's also obsessive and will be running experiments. He's now finishing off his PhD in AI and healthcare and is constantly running experiments in the background that last like 12 hours. So he's like, oh, just let me get a little bit more in so that it can run. And we're like, no, this is prioritized time. And I'll be like messaging my like co-founders and he'll be like, no, we like, this is our time. So that's our non-negotiable, is to always make sure that the other one feels prioritized, at least for like that day. And it's very precious to us to make sure that we can keep the personal side running whilst we're both pursuing these like very, very dynamic and accelerated career paths.
I love that. I have similar things on my side as well. It really does help.
Yeah, it's helpful to know that it's like a hard rule and like nothing will change that. I definitely think that you kind of need to like say it out loud to yourself and to someone else to be like, no, this is a non-negotiable, because if you don't make it, if you don't frame it internally that way, it's too easy to just not keep promises with yourself.
I hear it. I hear it. And when it comes to style, how would you describe your personal style uniform? Are there any like icons you look towards, any brands that you love, or like pieces which have become staples in your wardrobe?
Yeah. So being a founder can be quite expensive because you're essentially subsidizing a business from your own savings for a while. So I haven't done a lot of shopping in the past 2 years, but what I have done is rediscovered my entire wardrobe that I accumulated whilst I was working in finance. And I find that
Mm.
there is a few pieces, like not super expensive, like I have a green jacket from Zara that has some really nice embroidering on the collar and on the buttons that it's like 6 years old, so it's not, you don't see it on the street, and people give me lovely compliments over it, being like, oh, that's really nice, that's really you. And it's also nice because I'm not like seeing it everywhere else, so it makes it feel like it is really mine. And then if I'm ever in
Mm.
an emergency, which I have been, I've come into work wearing my like loosest, chillest, non-professional jeans and jumper, and then I realized that we had an in-person meeting with a VC in the afternoon, and I was like, okay. And in that situation, my default is Uniqlo because my God, that place is like a godsend. They make everything as if it was like tailored at like from the get-go. And I think they do
Mm.
offer additional tailoring services. So if I ever need anything, that's like my first default go-to because they really do produce quality items and I'm willing to pay that price. So yeah, those would be my top two.
Fair play. Love a bit of Uniqlo.
Yes. Yeah.
And how about beauty? Are there any hero beauty products in your routine that you want to shout out?
Mm.
Good.
Uh, so I really, really like there's it's a balm. It's from Jones Road. It's like moisturizing and it's blush, but you can use it on your lips or your eyelids or whatever you want.
I think I've seen
I,
it. Yeah.
yeah, I really love that product. I am not someone who wears a lot on a day-to-day basis, mostly because I'm very I'm very quick when I get out of bed. I prioritize getting extra sleep over
Yeah.
necessarily too much of lounging first thing in the morning. And so I have had a lot of situations where I wake up and within like 8 minutes I'm out the door, which does not lend itself to doing a lot.
Yeah.
So that's very practical because I can keep it in my bag and just put it on when I need a little bit of a refresher, especially after
Just
long
like,
winters where you're just like
oh,
ghostly or like just
yeah.
feel, I don't know, dusty and dry. Like it's moisturizing, it gives you some color, you look alive. That's all I need. It's perfect.
Yeah. The difference a little bit of blush can make is
Yeah.
crazy. It's just
Yeah, yeah,
like, oh, there's some
absolutely.
oxygen in your
Exactly,
system.
that's it.
Crazy.
I just want something that gives the illusion that I am healthy.
Literally. Amazing. And um tech. I mean, I feel like your list could probably be quite extensive because you're a tech company. Give us a few tools in your tech stack which you could not live without.
Um, Personally, Claude is like it's permanently open on my desktop. I am using it for 1,000 different things. I don't think that's new. Across, like, I'm sure many people that you've interviewed have said the same thing. It is
No,
just
actually,
so
but
phenomenally useful. Really? Oh,
no.
interesting. Okay. Well, I have tried OpenAI's ChatGPT. I've done Gemini. I've like tried Perplexity. I think they're all really good at different things. Like they all have particular strengths, and there's definitely a few edge cases where I will default to something else, like another LLM. But like 90% of the time, I'm on Claude and I'm building artifacts and I'm building ways of thinking and systems and negotiating with it and debating with it different project strategies and how should we approach this? How should we structure like a particular product pathway or things like that. And it's just incredibly useful as a visualization tool as well. It's phenomenal at building financial models, which I really rate because I don't have necessarily all the time in the world to edit things when like a VC speaks to me. So it's a lot easier to like correct a model than it is to build it from scratch. I say that. I built a lot of models from scratch because I didn't want to correct another model that someone else had built. But like this one, I think Claude does do the basics really, really well. So it just saves so much time. And then my other favorite is Lovable, who actually we share offices with. And I am obsessed with it. I think it's amazing. I think it's such a great tool for just ideating. I don't know how many different versions of our platform I have built on Lovable just because I wanted to see and have a real feel of what this workflow would look like. So I have so much praise for that company, to the point where I should probably be receiving affiliate fees. I talk about them all the time, and I recommend it to so many founders. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, those would be my top two. Like, if you're not using them, 100%, you should use them, whoever you are, no matter what industry you work in, no matter what you do, whether you want to use it for like business or personal. They are both phenomenal tools.
Yeah, I've dipped my toe into Lovable. Really niche use case. I needed
But
something
that's good.
Like I need it. Yeah, I mean it's really niche use case for me, but I needed something that could turn videos on LinkedIn into GIFs. Really niche. Like it was always like a 2 or 3 step process. Like I'd have to like find a LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'd have to find something to download the LinkedIn video thing, but and then manually turn it into GIF on something else. And I was like, I don't have time for this.
And did it deliver?
It did. I built this like random little thing in Lovable, which I could just pop the link in and it'll turn it into a GIF. And I'm like, brilliant.
Well, please feel free to share it if you're willing to share it, because I would love to use the same thing.
Yeah, I'd actually see my knowledge of the thing is so minimal. Like I don't even know how to share things with people.
I will show you. Because I would love to use this. I agree. I've also done it where it's like I need to turn this video into this GIF, and it is like a 4-step process. You're so right. Amazing use case. Perfect to build your own little project for something that's wasting your time.
Love it. Okay, we'll do that after this. I always have to plug myself in this tech bit. For any Notion girlies listening, I host a monthly academy, the Big Notion Energy Academy. If you would like to join us, please look in the show notes. But also, I want to talk about your business resources. You talk to a lot of experts in real life, but are you consuming any like podcasts or newsletters or even books that have changed your life that you want to shout out?
I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and catching up with like people. So those are my main sources for the business. When it comes to podcast, books, and news, it's all external to the business, which is, it is important to have a frame of reference of what other areas of life are doing, because, they might be able to cross-pollinate. So no, I can't necessarily highlight like a particular podcast. My favorite podcasts are all like about science and nature and history, and so they're not relevant to the business space. And I read, like, I'm reading a phenomenal book series right now called Red Rising, which is like a Hunger Games sci-fi operatic sort of theories. I highly recommend, but again, not business related. So yeah, I can't say I have anything to top of mind to share there.
Yeah, that is completely fair enough. Yeah, thank you for sharing your lifestyle stack with us.
Oh, hey again. Did you know there are roughly 100,000 London business babes out there? And we're on a mission to reach as many as possible. Enjoying what you hear? To support the hours of work that goes into making this special, you can either A, consider supporting directly as a paid monthly Substack subscriber to also unlock future exclusive content for less than a coffee and a croissant. B, any brands listening, we'd love to explore ways for you to be part of the journey. C, at the very least, on your next co-working date, tell a fellow London business babe about us. Details in the show notes. Now let's jump back in.
We are now going to kind of quick fire through your mini London guide. And so for people listening, where are you based in London?
I'm based on the northern half of Finsbury Park.
Okay. North. When
It's quite far. I've lived in a lot of areas of London. This is the furthest north I've ever been. Which I'll have to say, can I give a shout out to one restaurant called it's Sabib? It's a Somali restaurant. It opened within the last 6 months. It is my guilty pleasure. They do the most incredible lamb shoulder, and I did not know how good banana slices mixed in with rice and lamb. So if anyone is in that area, like, again, absolutely worthwhile. Even if you have to like travel there, it's so good. It's phenomenal.
Sabib. Any other restaurants on your list in London that you want to shout out?
I mean, that one's definitely my fave at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. For the rest of it, I tend to just like default to what's nearby. Our offices are on Brick Lane, and there's so much good food on Brick Lane. So I just take lots of nibbles from lots of different areas. Spitalfields Market also has lots of like great food. There's a Sri Lankan stand there that does really, really good dishes. So maybe that one I would also recommend. I've been going there for years. Like, that's been a constant for me, even from my BlackRock days.
I love Sri Lankan food. I'm in a really niche
good.
part of Lewisham where like all of the businesses are owned by Sri Lankans. And
Fair.
Great food all around.
Fair. Amazing.
Cool. And how about like cafes? Are you a cafe girly at all?
I do love cafes. I'm like really big into being at the office because I love being surrounded by people who are like working on the same thing, or not even if they're working on the same thing. I just want to be surrounded by people that are doing their own thing. And I think cafes are amazing when you don't have like a gorgeous office space to come into. Actually, this is a really good pro tip. If you are a founder who is like working remotely, you don't have a set office space, hotel lobbies in London, the place to go to sit and do work. Because, and I'm not talking like a big bougie hotel, I'm just saying like there's so many like boutique hotels in Shoreditch, for example, that have really nice lobby spaces where you can sit and work for free all day long. All you have to do is probably buy a coffee, if that. So I would highly recommend that as like nice places where you can sit and work, and there's no background noise, there's no distractions. You don't have to constantly be buying something new in order to stay sat there.
Do you remember any standouts from when you were in that phase?
I can't remember the names at the moment because I mapped my way around by just walking through. But I'd say Shoreditch has a massive collection of those. And then the Welcome collection in Euston, that one's also a phenomenal space to sit. And yeah, it's just really nice. I would recommend as well. It's less a cafe, more like a place where you can sit and do some work. Actually, same applies with the cafe at the base of the hotel St. Pancras. St. Pancras? I don't know how to say that word. I try and avoid it. But the cafe, it's got these massive palm trees, and it's like empty during the entire day. So the coffee there is quite expensive. But you can sit there for like 5 hours for one coffee, and again, it's like a great space. And it's good coffee.
I think I know. That's the Pullman Hotel that you're talking about.
I think it might be. Yeah.
because I've sat there a few times. I get a
Yeah,
pot of tea, and then you get
nice.
several pours of the pot of tea.
Very nice. Very nice.
And for people listening, the Welcome Collection is at the British Library, which has been mentioned so many times on the show.
That's really funny. Yeah, so it's like it's not quite it's not part of the British Library, it's like opposite. And it's really useful because I find that the British Library gets like every seat is taken, and then you'll find seats still available at the Welcome Collection because it's just a little bit less known. But maybe not anymore if everyone's mentioning it.
Definitely. And are you part of any member networks in London and in the startup world that you find useful?
I'm gonna give a shout out here to let me look up the specific name, but it's this poker night for women in finance, startups, founders, and I went to my first session last month. I'm due to go to the next session this month. I was in such like awe of what they've set up because essentially there's a really, really good poker teacher who shows you how to play, and then you're surrounded by other like women who are in complementary fields telling you their stories. It's a really chilled vibe. There's snacks. It's usually in like it's after work in the offices of one of the members, so it might be in like an investment firm's office space, or it might be at our office, or it might be at like one of my customers' offices because they were the ones who invited me to join along. And I just think it's such a great idea because it's fun to know how to do something really well as opposed to just like playing for fun. We're actually getting taught how to do it skillfully. So there's this added level of like I feel like I learned something. Dealers' Daughters. If you look up Dealers' Daughters on LinkedIn, you'll definitely find it.
Okay, cool. That's what I love about this show. Is just like finding those niche communities in London that you like. It's hard to find them sometimes unless someone like tells you directly.
Yeah.
So that's such a cool concept. I love that.
Yeah. I agree.
Don't worry if it's a lot to take in. All of the amazing tools, spots, and recommendations mentioned by our guests can be found in the Coffee and Oysters guide. Details in the show notes.
Thank you. So now we're gonna wrap up. I know earlier you said that you find it hard to celebrate yourself, but sometimes that I always like to say that on this show that we are our biggest cheerleaders and each other's biggest cheerleaders. Is there a recent one, even if it's tiny for yourself, that you want to celebrate and of someone else's as well?
Yeah, I've got a 2-for-1 on that one, which was the latest cohort of Antler started about 5 weeks ago. And in the build up to that, I'd had loads of people ask me about my experience, ask me about getting into Antler, ask me about what it takes to be a founder. And I took 3 people proverbially under my wing. Like I don't know how to put it without sounding condescending. But like I was like, I believe in you. You have what it takes to like do this journey. And so I coached them through the process of setting up a proper pitch deck, thinking about the unit economics of each one of their ideas. Now it wasn't like a huge time commitment, but it was time that I was investing, like looking through and reviewing their things whilst I was on my commute home where there was like no internet or whatever. So I was finding time even when I felt like it was really busy. And then all 3 of them got into Antler. And it was so rewarding when I found that out. And it was so special to me to know that I've like contributed back into the ecosystem, because the way I ended up in Antler was that a founder that was already in like recommended me in. And I think that's really meaningful to me. That was something that I genuinely felt like I could celebrate, because I was like, oh, it's shared. It's something that makes me feel proud of like how I decided to use my time and the potential impact that that could have on them, because being in this process has completely changed my life and helped me build this business. So yeah, it's quite high reward potential in terms of having taken the time to help these 3 people. And they're also lovely, and they check in with me every now and again, and I ask them as well for advice because they're sector experts in their own fields, and they're so willing to like give back. So yeah, that's something I would celebrate.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And then I always like to say, you never know who's listening. Is there anything you would like to plug? And is there anything that you need help with?
If there is anyone who would like to build their partnership go-to-market motion, please reach out, because like this is my obsession. If there's anyone who has any amazing stories of like how they've accelerated their business through partnerships, I want to hear them. I'm still learning about the wonderful ways that people have deployed this strategy, and I am all ears. So yeah, that would be my ask.
Okay. And then dream collaboration, I like to say, again, you never know who's listening. What is a dream collaboration or partner sign on for Souk?
Interesting. So we tend to operate in very B2B space. And all the companies that I'm obsessed with are B2C. Like I love Strava, and I love Spotify, and I love what's it called? It's an alcohol company. I don't even drink, but I have respected this company for so long. It's not ABI. It
AB and Bev?
No, that's
Okay.
It's not that one. It's the other one, the other major player. It's terrible that I forget their name, but I read this case study from them when I was like 16, still in high school, and I think it was Smirnoff, and they, through that brand, they hosted these like nightclub switches globally, whereby it was like a nightclub from Cuba was done in Berlin, and the one in Berlin was done in Cuba, and at the same time one in India was done in like Houston, and the one in Houston was done in India. And you could also see like recordings of what the nightclub life was like in other parts of the world, and I just thought that was such a phenomenal like experience to have, and I was like, oh, I wish I was old enough to be able to participate in that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, for Souk itself, I think there's a lot of amazing businesses that move really fast. Maybe a partnership with Lovable would be really, really cool. Maybe that's something that I'm going to keep pushing for. Personally, there's a lot of B2C brands that I think do just really cool things with people, because that's their main focus is like individuals and consumers. And I love people. So I would love to do something that's like very much focused on individuals, but from a like big B2B perspective. I think a partnership with a company like Lovable, who I'm also obsessed with, would be really, really cool.
Hey, very cool. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing all of the tea. Where can people find you and learn about your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. Sofia Hamilton. I mean, you'll see it there. And you can also see more about our company at joinsouk.com. And yeah, please feel free to reach out. And those would be the main 2 places.
Great. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Frances.